Hello and welcome to Reality Recapped, where I recap all of the trashiest reality shows. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and it's through that lens that I watch these shows and make my comments. Of course, I have not met with any of the people on this show, so everything that I state is simply an opinion. My channel is a little bit of education and a whole lot of snark. This episode is going to recap Season 18, Episode 3, Stones in Glass Houses. Reality Recap turns 1 September 12th. I asked you guys last week to please subscribe so I can get to 10,000 subscribers before the 1-year anniversary. And wow, your response has been incredible. Thank you so much. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers. So if you didn't subscribe last week and you want to help me reach this goal, please take a minute to subscribe. And now let's get into the video.
My brother Michael and my dear friend Nathan and I like to do man trips.
I think you mean guys trips.
Man trips.
Maybe boys trips?
Man trips.
Okay, Cody, I'm not going to argue with you here. If you want to call them man trips, we're going to let you call them man trips.
We've gone out to Brian's place in Oklahoma.
Wait a second. You couldn't go to Isabel's surgery because of COVID, but you can go to Oklahoma for a quote-unquote man's trip? Priorities, am I right? So let's meet Cody's crew. First up, there's Michael, Cody's younger brother, who is 30. Cody doesn't mention whether he's a polygamist or if he's married. So ladies, we're just going to have to wonder on that one. Then there's Nathan, who was a polygamist with 2 wives, but similar to Cody, one of Nathan's wives left him. Then we have Brian, who Cody calls a lifelong bachelor until recently, and we all remember this wedding, which Cody did a terrible job officiating.
I've been whining to these 3 gentlemen about my divorce with Christine for a while. This is like a men's group, a therapy session for me.
Hate to be a stickler here, but I'm pretty sure for this to qualify as a therapy group, there has to be an actual licensed therapist there.
So with grief, you have the stages of grief. And I'm assuming that with divorce, it's the same type of a thing.
Okay, Dr. Phil, what Cody's therapist, Brian, is trying to tell us is that there are 5 stages of grief. I've left a link in the description box below so you can go look this up. This is from the American Psychological Association, which is a credible source for psychological information. In 1969, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross created a hypothetical model that depicts psychological states, moods, or coping strategies that occur during the dying process or during periods of bereavement, great loss, or trauma. And so these begin with the denial stage, followed by the anger stage, bargaining stage, depression stage, and acceptance stage. But the name stages of grief makes people think that these are concrete and specific in their order, and they're not. Calling it the grief cycle model is actually a better way of describing it because this doesn't happen in segments in a chronological order. All of these states can overlap. You can go through an anger phase and think, okay, well, at least I'm not angry anymore. I'm just in the depression phase. And then your anger can resurface because it's a process, not a straight line into healing. People can incorrectly assume that they're not healing at all, which isn't factual. You will have other emotions coming back up, and it doesn't mean you're not progressing in the healing. It just means it's a cycle and it's a process. So don't lose hope if you feel like, I'm slipping back into how I felt a month ago. It's totally okay. And you're moving forward, even if it feels like you're not. So Cody's friend is saying that he just noticed that, he was kind of in disbelief that all of a sudden all of his stuff was packed. And Cody's like, yeah, I all of a sudden, I was just out. We've all seen the footage. We've all watched the show. We know this wasn't a snap of the fingers decision on Christine's part. We know she's been communicating this whole time. So how do we explain what Cody is saying right now? One theory is that he is being quote unquote creative with the truth, which we know he has a habit of doing. So he is maybe pretending that he's having one reaction when in reality he's not. Another option though is that narcissists tend to build up this belief system about who they are and how important they are. It's a self-protection mechanism that helps them feel secure when they really feel hollow and empty on the inside. But how can you hold the belief that you're the best and everyone should adore you while someone is leaving you? It's something called a narcissistic injury. And what happens when someone feels injured, specifically a narcissist, they lash out at everybody around him. So he's talking about anger. His friend is bringing up this argument that it's really the grieving process is what is happening. And That's not what I'm seeing. I could be wrong. I don't hang out with Kody ever, even if he has gloves on. This is just my opinion as some random person on the internet, right? But what I think is actually happening is he has a narcissistic injury and he is attacking and destroying and burning everything around him.
The very beginning, the first reaction was relief. I went from that to anger. Because what I started doing was literally going online and trying to research, if you're getting a divorce, how do you manage keeping things amiable with kids and stuff like that? And what it is just this really big, like, walk away from women movement. And it's about angry men who have been left.
So let's unpack what Kody just said. He's wanting to work on the relationship so that they can have an amicable divorce and everyone can be around one another. Fantastic objective. But then he devolves into the walk away women movement. Clearly, at some point, when Kody was researching how to get along well with your ex-spouse, he began to start to research why women are horrible and why they're leaving men and why men are so angry. And unsurprisingly, his results made him.
And I think that might have been a touch of poison because I got angry. So I'm going around to Robyn and to Janelle, and they feel like I'm a woman hater. Like Robyn actually said, this is affecting our relationship in a terrible way.
So it is possible that if you're going through an extreme grieving process, that you could potentially lash out at other people. That can happen. But I think what he just said kind of substantiates my theory that he is suffering from a narcissistic injury from Christine leaving. And so he is lashing out indiscriminately to everyone in his family.
I mean, like, I've witnessed Kody's process through this divorce, and he's all over the place. I mean, one minute he's angry, another minute he's very upset and sad, and then another minute he's like in this peaceful place where he's like, maybe this was meant to be, and then he goes back to the anger thing again. So you like be sitting there talking to him, and he just goes down this kind of crazy wild ride, and all of a sudden you're on the Kody coaster. Ah!
I have never ever seen Robyn speak publicly in a negative way about Kody. I'm very surprised that she's actually saying this out loud. That's interesting. And it makes me think that living with him is so much worse than we can even imagine.
The thing that I kind of want to express to you is when you encounter anger, the root of anger is in two things. It's either in fear or it's in self-delusion or self-deception. You have to look in the mirror and see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and own everything completely.
I'm still in self-deception, I can tell.
How can you tell if you're in self-deception? Oh, that's so funny. Kody's so funny sometimes. So there are actually more reasons that you might feel angry. And it's really easy to oversimplify anger and just be like, oh, it's just because you're sad or just because you have fear or just because you're whatever. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. I wouldn't say I disagree with what he's saying, but I think there's other reasons why you would exhibit anger. What I think he's touching on, though, Nathan, I really did like what Nathan had to say. What he's touching on is that there's no accountability on Kody's side. And I definitely agree with that.
The reason I was ambivalent, I think, was literally because I thought she was playing a game.
Remember what Robyn called this? His mental optimism or something? It's like, no, you're just completely not living in reality.
COVID has changed a lot of things in our society. We were just talking about this today. We have another friend that just got divorced. Being together during COVID, they couldn't take each other.
Stressful life events can definitely factor into divorce. But to say that COVID is making people break up, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I think what we've seen with the Browns is that there are always fractures there. And maybe COVID just highlighted everything. Robyn says she always encourages Kody to have guy time. She thinks it's very important for women to have women time and guy to have guy time. And I completely agree. Janelle says when they lived in Utah, he used to get together with his guy friends all the time. They used to call it Testosterone Tuesdays.
Polygamy could be a gift where it dilutes personalities. But if I'm married to this woman and she's really cantankerous or I don't enjoy her, but I can't leave, it'd be nice to have another wife because then I can get away from her for a little bit. Or it'd be nice if I'm the one that's cantankerous, she's thinking, it'd be nice if you had another wife so I could get a break from you.
You hit it on the nose.
Janelle isn't even upset at what he's saying. She is so over this whole thing. She's like, yep, I like the fact that you are leaving too. Meri, however, is a different story when she hears this.
That kind of comment just makes me want to vomit. Maybe you should look at the whole big picture then in a situation like that and figure out how you can work together and be together instead of using somebody else as an escape. Are you kidding me?
What a marked difference in Meri in this episode. So we're seeing her state her opinion. She is not laughing about it. You can see she's a little incensed by what he said, and she has such a valid point. What we find out later in this episode is that Janelle references Kody calling her a Teflon Queen, which tells me that at a minimum, Janelle has seen all of the episodes they've aired. I would assume that Meri also has seen all of these episodes. And there is no way for Meri to deny what's going on any longer because Kody is saying horrible things all through season 17 to the camera that he wasn't telling Meri to her face. So I think she's gotten a whole other vantage point from season 17. I'm excited to see Meri stand up for herself. I really want her to connect with her own power and her own emotions and own them and not minimize them. So I'm very excited for this shift in her. Kody is asked, how is he going to feel when Christine has a new partner?
I'm not going to be bothered when another guy is in her life. I don't think.
Oh, Kody, we know you don't think. Cody's asked if there's anything that he could have done to save the marriage. And he says there was one time when Christine was saying she hated polygamy. And I just told her, what the hell? You wouldn't have the kids that you have if we weren't polygamous. You wouldn't have the life that we have if you weren't polygamous. What are you talking about? And instead, what he said he should have said was, I'm sorry, baby. And I know this is hard. Then we cut to Christine, who says,
no, it wasn't just hating polygamy. It was realizing that after I gave so much, but when I needed help, he said no. They're not just my kids and my responsibility. They're our children. He immediately started helping Robyn with everything as soon as she came in the family.
Back in the house in Lehi, Utah, I was working 60 hours a week. Christine was asking for things that plural marriage didn't really afford women generally, and those were certainly not things that Robyn ever got.
We've heard Christine in past seasons mention that she had to work when she was pregnant with Truly, when she was away at night at work, that there was nobody to tuck her kids in. And that seems very unfair, especially because we know Kody was at home, we know Janelle was at home, we know Meri was at home. Why was it that 3 adults couldn't get it together to take care of Christine's kids when Christine did the bulk of childcare? She made food for everybody. She homeschooled everybody. It is very unfair. Kody then goes on to say that Christine was asking for things that weren't afforded to polygamist wives. And he likes to say this a lot, that Christine was asking for extra favors, extra treatment. No, she was asking for the same thing she was providing for other people, childcare. It was a one-directional situation, and no one was helping her when she had to go to work.
Parenting is never easy in plural marriage.
Expert Robyn weighing in again on polygamy and how hard it is. She has no idea at all.
Cody's gone 3/4 of the time. And that's why I had childcare help, because I can't ask Kody for that kind of help. He's got too much on his plate.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny to me that people think that the editors are on Kody and Robyn's side. Look at who they're showing in the background when she talks about she needed childcare. Mykelti, who we know started doing childcare for Robyn at Mykelti was what, 10, 11? And she's helping Robyn take care of her kids. Robyn is getting childcare to help with her kids. Christine didn't have that. So again, Kody points his finger at Christine, behaving as if she's asking for the sun and the moon and the stars. And the reality is, Robyn just gets whatever she wants, and he doesn't bat an eye.
I did some things wrong. I want to acknowledge it, say I'm sorry, and, essentially set you free.
I don't really believe Kody here. I don't think he really understands what his part was in any of this. I think he understands that his friends want him to say these things, and so he's saying it. I don't think he actually means any of it. The other piece is that he says, I'll set her free. as if he has any ability to control anything that Christine does. That time is in the past. You have no power over her. And the fact that he thinks he has to set her free, she set herself free, bud. Kody goes on to say that Janelle's been really defensive lately. And when he reflects on it, he realizes he's been really angry, and that's probably why she's being so defensive. But, everything will be fine between them. They'll figure it out. They'll work it out. Okay, so now we switch to Flagstaff. Kody is coming over to Janelle's house. They're going to have a conversation about Christmas because Janelle wants to make sure Kody knows she's not spending it with him. She's going to go to the Airbnb with her boys. Kody comes in, walks directly to her kitchen, makes himself some hot tea because it's so cold outside that all he's doing now is just drinking hot liquids because it's definitely winter outside. And then he throws shade at her Christmas tree, calling it very, very small. And then Janelle's like, yeah, well, I'm going to be taking it to the Airbnb, so it works. They replay this scene that we have seen probably 3 times already in this season. And I'm so tired of this conversation. We know that Kody required his kids to apologize, and then he changed his mind, but he never contacted them. It's not Janelle's responsibility to keep their relationship going or to speak to the kids on Kody's behalf. Their relationship is independent of Janelle. And if he chooses to not reach out to his kids and not call them, that's on Kody.
Being in this place where I kind of feel like I'm begging for something deeper.
So much of what comes out of Kody's mouth is just gobbledygook. And I think this is just more gobbledygook. Janelle says there's been no movement on either side. Kody hasn't called his kids to rectify the situation, and the kids haven't reached out to Kody. So no one's called anybody. Kody says that the fact that they're not spending Christmas together is just heartbreaking to him, and it feels like a knife in the heart.
And the boys were asking if you thought you would come over, and I said I wasn't optimistic.
No, I'm not coming over. I have a house. I have a place where we would have Christmas.
Clearly, this is such a silly stand for Kody to take. If you really want to spend Christmas with your kids, who cares where it is? All that matters, right, is that you're together. This is how we know. That's not all that matters to Kody. What Kody cares about is power. Kody cares about having a situation where people have to walk in on his turf and follow his rules.
Representing very well for me. Stop representing for me.
Well, then you call them, Kody.
That phone goes both ways.
So finally, we hear a little bit of information from Kody, which he ends up completely contradicting later on. He's saying the phone goes both ways. I think he has not contacted them. Later on, he acts like he has. I don't think that's true. I think he's stuck on this power dynamic, and it's their job to call him because he's the important one in this relationship dynamic. They should kowtow to him. They're not doing that. And it's more important for him to have that quote unquote respect than it is to actually have a relationship.
It still surprises me that Kody feels like it's my responsibility to facilitate this relationship between he and my children. He's a parent as much as I am.
I totally agree with Janelle here. Obviously, it's not her responsibility, nor can it be her responsibility to maintain those relationships. We have heard Robyn say that she thinks it's the wife's responsibility to make sure that the husband has a good relationships with the kids. So I think that's where he's getting this. But I think it's a very distorted, disturbing way of thinking about how your husband should be relating to your children. It shouldn't all flow through you. It gives Robyn an advantage if she's the one in control of these relationships. They're only good because she's there helping them. It gives her a lot of possibility for manipulation if she's the go-between between the kids and Kody. So I don't see it as this altruistic thing. I think it's a way for her to maintain power. And if you're hearing snoring, I apologize. My very cute dog is definitely a snorer. I think some of you have heard him before. I'm really sorry. I don't know what else to do. I've moved his bed. He's nowhere near the microphone. He's on the other side of my desk. And I draped a blanket between him and I, and hopefully that's going to absorb all of his snoring. So fingers crossed, and sorry about that.
It's because it belongs on you,
No,
Janelle.
it does not. Why does it belong on me?
Because you didn't support my stand when it came to actually doing the COVID stuff.
Kody, I was protecting my children, and you have said, choose your loyalties or you're not going to have a husband. So I'm supposed to choose between you and our children?
Parents are supposed to make a united front. I'm tired of being gaslit by you.
You are
guys on this.
gaslighting me. This is you saying, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to make it your fault.
You really need to stop throwing me under the bus.
Okay, you know what? Then you stop throwing me. You act like this is my fault. You have somehow set me up as like the Teflon Queen. Isn't that what you said?
Yes, because you won't take responsibility for your own action.
I did nothing. I did what I was supposed to do, but it wasn't ever good enough for you.
This is all I.
So it's pretty standard for a narcissist to project what they're actually doing onto other people. And they'll throw in statements that usually are true, right? Parents should kind of have a united front. And typically, I would agree with that. But if you're having unrealistic requirements, if you're making rules above what the CDC is requiring, I'm not going to just stamp my approval on everything that you decide. That's what Kody is wanting, though. He wants Janelle to just be on his side because it's him. It doesn't matter what he requires of his kids. She also mentioned that it didn't matter what we were doing. It was never good enough. And that's moving goalposts. Also very common. So, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, then, we can get this fixed. And then you do X, Y, and Z, and then it's like, oh yeah, but you need to do this other piece. And they keep adding more stuff as if some point they're going to give you what you want. But really, it's just a manipulation tactic to get you to do more and more of what they're wanting. Also a very common tactic. Everybody has disagreements, but I think one of the things, one key piece that is different when you're dealing with a narcissist is you walk away from that conversation feeling more confused and your brain almost feels a little scrambled.
I'm not allowed to be angry over this entire experience.
And I'm not allowed
The lack of loyalty, the lack of trust, the lies, the gaslighting.
You're gaslighting me, Kody.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
You know what I'm doing? I'm trying to make you actually be responsible in a relationship.
It's just so maddening to hear him say this to Janelle and know that none of this is factual. It feels incredibly unfair to her.
You wanted me to kick the boys out. You act like this is not your fault.
Do you want this relationship between you and I to work?
I don't know, do you? Because when you say choose your loyalties, choose between me and your children.
Now you are literally gaslighting.
And again, what he's saying is just not based on any sort of fact. He is just twisting reality so that he's not responsible. It's ironic, isn't it? He's telling her, you need to be accountable. I'm trying to make you accountable. When really, he's the one who's not being accountable. It's really tough when you feel like someone is attacking your character and it's all stuff that they're doing.
I corrected that pretty strongly.
You need to apologize to the family,
for blaming
to
Robyn for what was going on. They literally blamed Robyn. They sit there and admitted they blamed her.
Well, and when you were gone for 4 or 5 months, Kody, they started to get angry.
I wasn't gone for 4 or 5 months, and you know that as well, and that's an exaggeration and a lie.
I believe Janelle here and the kids. I think he was gone for months at a time. I think they had every reason to be upset about it. They had every right to feel like their father should be as involved in their lives and with their mother as he was with Robyn. I do suspect that Robyn was the one who had the COVID rules. She's very good at manipulating Kody into doing what she wants without drawing attention to the fact that she's the one who's setting all of the behavior. We can see this with just how he interacted with her children, with her setting the rules of how long he could be away. Always acted like these were his rules, but they weren't. This was Robyn's. And she's just really good at getting him to do what she wants. She knows how to manipulate him.
Do you understand that you lie? That's the reason I call you the Teflon Queen. Because you're lying about what has happened and what's been going on.
It's wild to me that you think I lie because I think you're manipulating.
Well, tell me how I'm manipulating. Oh, no. Tell the whole world. Tell the world. And then go hang out with your buddy Christine.
He seems very unhinged right now. It's very dangerous to do this with somebody. Their anger can be very explosive. He's not very regulated right now, meaning like his emotions are overriding his self-control. He's pointing at the camera in this really aggressive way, saying like, no, you just tell them. And now we know what Kody's really thinking about. He's thinking about everybody around the world watching him being called out for what he's doing, and he is losing it. We've all been watching. We all see through the trees. We know exactly what's happening. We know that he's manipulating. We've watched his behavior. It's kind of hard to save face when there's all this video evidence of your behavior. In the real world, you don't have video evidence to point to. So it becomes so much harder when you're dealing with somebody who's twisting your words or events. And anyone reasonable would admit, sometimes you hear things incorrectly. Sometimes you misremember. That happens to all of us. So if you're a reasonable person and you don't realize you're dealing with someone who is attempting to distort reality, you might give them the benefit of the doubt. And if you don't have video evidence, you might start to doubt your own ability to really see what's going on in the world. And that is incredibly dangerous. These women are very lucky in the sense that they have video evidence of exactly what's happened, exactly what's been said. That can really help you not feel like you're unhinged and you're the problem.
Tell the world how I've lied, how I've manipulated, how I've done you wrong.
And again, we don't need her to tell us. We've been watching the show, and she doesn't have to say a word. We have all of this evidence of what you've done.
And she loves to sit right here, talk me without ever having that conversation with me to my face.
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing about being public and our lives being recorded, is we hear things that we don't say to each other's faces.
It would be really hard to be in an argument a year ago and then hear today what they actually thought about that argument and to hear things that they don't actually say to your face. In defense of Janelle, it doesn't sound like Kody was around for her to have those conversations with him. And if you're MIA, sorry, I'm not going to call you to tell you everything I'm thinking. Also, you're both doing that. You called her the Teflon Queen and said that she wasn't being accountable for anything. So it's not like she's doing something that you're not doing. You're both guilty of doing the same thing. Does it create more problems in a relationship? Absolutely.
I made all the efforts to love them. I made the efforts to join them together. I made the efforts to make everything work. I made the effort. I was Atlas carrying this family on my shoulders. And the minute that I shrugged it off.
Whoopsies, did you accidentally just admit that you shrugged off your responsibilities as a father? I think he did not mean to actually say that out loud. And notice what he's saying. I sacrificed to make all of this happen. He's acting like a real martyr, isn't he? I think your role as a parent is to love your kids. I think your role as a husband is to love your wife. I don't quite understand why he's so angry, as if he was put out by this role that he chose.
I think you decided you didn't want to be a plural husband anymore. Kody, I think you're trying to do this all to justify. Christina's gone.
What am I justifying?
You're pushing me
What
out
am
the
I
door.
justifying?
You're now pushing me out the door.
No, I'm not. Is
you made
accountability.
This about all these other problems that we have that we can't sleep under.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
I did not. I did not.
It's always funny when this happens in an argument, because it's like you've regressed to the point of being like a 5-year-old. I did not. It's just very comical. There's more regurgitation of the same old argument about the rules of COVID and blah, blah, blah. And that gets regurgitated a couple times. It's kind of like going through the spin cycle. I'm trying to cut through what gets repeated and only put in what's new content.
Have you ever been a team with me? Have we ever co-parented? Your co-parent was Christine. Why?
Because, Cody, you were never available. Never been
That
available.
is such a lie.
Okay.
Every excuse every polygamous woman that finds a problem with it makes. And it's bull.
One thing that Kody used to always say that he wanted was for his wives to all have a relationship independent of their relationship with Kody. Remember when they went to Sedona and they had some sort of therapy session, and he was saying he was really worried that if he were to pass away, that none of the wives would stay in contact or stay together. And he acted like he wanted them to all have a really close friendship. Now he's saying he's upset because they have the kind of companionship that you typically have in a husband-wife situation. Why are you parenting with her and not with me? And Janelle's like, because you're not around, which is reasonable. It's reasonable that if you have needs, your husband's not meeting them, and there's somebody else there who's in a similar situation, you're going to help one another out. So Kody can't have it both ways. And now he's saying this is just an argument that all these polygamous women have, that their husband isn't available. Maybe it's a typical argument because it's a typical problem with polygamy. It's true. If you have multiple wives and multiple children, you have less time and less availability for each and every situation, each and every person in your family. You know, polygamy, that thing you were trying to convince the whole country that is just a fantastic way to live your life, turns out has some drawbacks. Who would have thought? Me. I would have thought. And everybody else watching this show.
Wild to me because Robyn's so perfect.
What did I say that she was perfect? You're jealous. You're bringing her into something that isn't hers to be owned.
I don't think bringing up Robyn is really going to help anything. I do think that he favors her, and this is where a lot of the problems came from. Robyn isn't responsible for Kody ignoring everybody else. Kody is responsible for ignoring everybody else. He should not have been able to be manipulated into doing what one person, one wife wanted. He should have been a better husband to everybody. So I understand the irritation toward Robyn. I just don't think for dealing with Kody and talking to Kody, it's even anything worth bringing up. You're not going to get anywhere with him. He's just going to get really defensive. And again, that doesn't mean that I think Robyn is right or innocent in all of this. I just mean when you think about Janelle's energy and what's worth talking about and what isn't, I just don't see it as a fruitful subject to even broach.
I don't think you've ever admitted your culpability in the problems in this family.
This is wild to me that you're blaming me for this. I feel like I'm being gaslit. I'm being told that you say something.
You're using that because I used the term.
Oh, I came into this conversation expecting to use that term.
I think Janelle, out of everybody, has really noticed patterns with Kody. For example, she talked about, first the reason we couldn't get together was because of COVID. And then once you got COVID, then you said we couldn't get together because the boys needed to apologize. And she says he just finds a different drum to beat, or he has a different excuse for why they can't get together. And I think she was one of the first people to really start to notice patterns in his behavior.
I don't expect to see anybody at Christmas time. I don't expect to see you. You have cheated me out of my contact with my family.
It is not my fault. You ask them. You ask them who they blame.
Well, they blame me because you do.
I do not.
It's crazy that Kody is blaming Janelle for the estrangement of the children as if he has no fault. It's just, it's just more gobbledygook. And none of it's really nestled in reality. It's unfortunately that he just can't take any accountability. So instead of him really thinking about what he's done to create this situation, he's just blaming everybody else around him.
Call me all kinds of names.
What? That you're lazy about the rules? That you won't accept accountability?
Kody, in the very beginning,
you make this excuse forever. But
Shut your mouth and let me talk to you for a minute.
No.
You won't. You keep cutting me off.
No.
You keep cutting me off.
There is no interest in understanding each other here. There is no interest in understanding. There is only a bitterness that has no place.
Obviously, telling somebody to shut up and to listen to them it's not going to go well, right? Whenever you say that. But it is true that Kody keeps talking over her. She tries to state her point, and she, I think, was trying to remain calm and be more, she said, more logical in this conversation. And Kody's just kind of all over the place. He is interrupting her. He is talking over her. And that gets frustrating after a while. Again, he says there's no interest in hearing one another and listening to one another. And I'm seeing Janelle listening to what Kody has to say and responding to him. What I'm not seeing is Kody listening to Janelle.
I don't expect you to back me up anymore. I'm not going to look for it. I'm not going to ask for it. I don't expect you to try and help us co-parent the kids. That's too late. We're never going to do that.
This is not.
So what partnership do we have?
This is not only me, Kody. Don't you dare point your finger at me.
He keeps bringing up this whole co-parenting thing, and he keeps talking about how she's not co-parenting with him, but she is co-parenting with Christine, and That's unfair. And it's like, Kody, don't you understand that they wanted to co-parent with you, but you weren't around? So they're going to fulfill their needs with other people. If you're not there to help them raise their kids, they're going to lean on people that are available and will help.
I've been here day long, in and out, for all these years without your support, while you were deciding what you were doing without consulting me.
So Kody is saying he was always there and always around. Not true. He receded to Robyn's. They talk about this happening back in Las Vegas. When they moved to Las Vegas, he was always at Robyn's house. That's where he always was. So this is going back way further than just COVID.
You know what? Let me tell you what. No. You stay and talk.
I'm done listening to you.
You stay and talk.
No. I'm not going to, because you're not listening.
You're not listening to me.
And I'm not going to.
Okay, so we're done.
Goodbye.
You. Shut it off.
This argument was a lot longer than I thought it was when we saw it in the trailer. This seems to have gone on for at least, 20 minutes, half an hour. It's so clear that Kody isn't listening to Janelle, and that if he just had an interest in working out the relationship, you would actually need to sit and listen to what somebody had to say, take their concerns into account. He's not doing any of that, and he's really doing a lot of the finger pointing, saying that she's not listening to him. Later on in her confessional, Janelle says that it was less about what they actually said to one another and more about her feeling in that moment that this is really done. This is really over. And she wasn't necessarily expecting that. Then she goes into the fact that she has nothing. She's in a bad financial situation. And she talks about how she's a really smart woman and she can't believe she did this. And those things can happen to really smart people. It's easy on the outside looking in to kind of see like, oh, there's all these warning signs. But Janelle lived in this family for I think like 20 years before Robyn came in, and they all shared the same pot, and it seemed to have worked out. It wasn't until Robyn came in that there was a difference in where the money went and who got what. Everybody else seemed to contribute to the pot. If Christine wasn't able to work full-time, she was working part-time, and she was also doing the bulk of the childcare. Meri was always working, Kody was working, Janelle was working. So everyone's contributing into this pot, and then Robyn comes in and she's not contributing financially. In fact, she's taking out more money because she's hiring nannies to help her, even though she's not working.
I tried to help Janelle buy a house. I tried to talk her into buying a house. We had the means to do that. But she's got just as many assets as the rest of us.
I would actually argue the opposite. Janelle has the least assets of all of the wives, including Meri. At least Meri has the B&B, and that's totally in her name. So she at least has that. Yes, Janelle has her name on a property deed, but as Janelle has said, if Kody just sticks his head in the sand and doesn't pay that, they could lose the land and then she really has nothing. It's really sad that the person who probably contributed the most financially to the family and consistently did that over the lifespan of her involvement with the family is the one that's leaving with the least amount of assets. After Kody leaves Janelle's house, he goes over to Meri's house and he shows up with Robyn, and Meri's like, you guys seem like you're in a really bad mood. One thing that I want to comment on really quickly is that they're outside of Meri's house. This is just another indicator to me that Robyn is the one who is really worried about COVID because she's the only factor that won't go into other people's homes, or she won't let other people come into her home. We just saw Cody, who went and visited his friends and he was hanging out inside with them. We just saw Cody come from Janelle's house where he was inside. So I think it's very reasonable to deduce that Robyn is the one who is really worried about COVID and not going into other people's homes and not letting other people come into hers. Robyn says, well, we better talk about the holiday season and what we're doing for Christmas. Meri asks, what is Janelle doing for Christmas? And Kody says, well, her and Christine are running an Airbnb, and so they're going to celebrate it there. Kody says that Janelle and Christine are trying to keep him out because they're mad at him.
I thought you were talking to her about this and stuff.
Oh, no, we didn't talk.
Oh, I thought
we yelled at each other. The boys aren't talking to me.
Have you tried?
Yeah, I've reached out to basically everybody.
I could be missing something here, but everything that Kody has said up to this point was that the phone goes both ways and that he wasn't going to reach out to them. So I don't know, maybe he did try to reach out to the boys. I kind of doubt it. And maybe when the kids are on the next episode we see in the previews, they will kind of fill in that information. But as far as I know now, Kody has not reached out to his children. In her talking head, Robyn says, this is scary because we don't know what this means. You know, it seems like things are getting worse, like around Christmas and the separation of the family. It's like, you blew up this family. Stop feigning that you're surprised that it's totally destroyed. Bit by bit, every opportunity you get, you're getting in there and just destroying everything. And oh man, for her to just act like, it's just really scary for me. She likes to use the word scary. It's really uncomfortable. It's really scary. It makes me really nervous. Those are like her favorite words to use.
We're just having two groups of Christmas. Hey, listen, I was threatening to do this last Christmas.
Well, no, Christine's not going to be here for Christmas. So that's not two groups.
She's colluding with them.
Do you think she's colluding with them?
Absolutely.
Kody feels pretty angry. And whenever you're angry, you're not going to see any other perspective. You've got blinders on. But playing devil's advocate, maybe Janelle's not colluding. I mean, when you use the word collude, and when Kody uses it, like it means everybody is banding up against him. And maybe she's not doing that.
I agree with what Meri is saying here. It's true that when you are angry, you're less objective in whatever is happening. We're all guilty of that. Meri is so different in how she's speaking. She was laughing a lot about like painful things, and she chuckles a little bit, but it's interesting to see the shift in Meri. And I have to say, I'm really pleased with her playing devil's advocate, her weighing both sides rather than just co-signing anything that Robyn and Kody have to say.
Christine and Janelle are doing everything they can to make it so I'm not the head of the family, which is fine.
Basically, I became the head of mine and my kids' family out of necessity.
So it's more like, well, what are we going to do for Christmas? So, you know, I guess we do Christmas Eve here and then Christmas morning at Robyn's house.
So now we have this opportunity of having Christmas Eve in neutral territory, hosted by someone who isn't actively arguing with Janelle or Janelle's side of the family. What a great opportunity if you really do want to get your family back together, you want to right kind of the ship. What a great opportunity. But let's watch how Robyn shapes the conversation.
And then do I like invite Janelle and the kids that are around? I feel like I'm completely stuck in the middle. Let's be real. I don't know what to do. Do I call them and have them come over when you guys are all at odds?
That sounds scary.
If I could have my Christmas wish, Kody and the boys would get this figured out and we could have Christmas together. Do I think it's going to work for them to get together on Christmas Eve without talking? No, I think there's going to be a fight, and that's what I think is scary.
What Meri said earlier, too, was that she's kind of in no man's land. So she's not in the Christine and Janelle club, and she's a third wheel around Kody and Robyn. So she's kind of out on her own, and it seems like Kody and Robyn are the only ones who really, quote unquote, want her around, which I don't believe. I think Robyn keeps Meri around because she's able to manipulate her. I don't think Kody cares a lick about Meri. It's your house, Meri. You make the choices. You get to call whatever it is you want. But we see Robyn coming in with her typical language of, it's just really scary to me, or that doesn't seem safe, or that doesn't feel safe. And she's able to convince Meri, probably because Meri is really on the outs with everybody, including Kody and Robyn, but less so than compared to Christine and Janelle, that Meri's going to side with their side because at least she gets some interaction with them. I wish Meri would have included Janelle in the invitation and her children. Robyn continually says, this is my Christmas wish, but does nothing to make it happen. In fact, she created more disharmony in the family. Just last episode, we saw her imploding the kids' gift exchange by inserting herself and demanding it go a certain way rather than just letting the kids, many of them adults now, manage their own relationship. She cannot allow that. She has to get in there and has to really have her claws into every aspect of anyone who's close to her in her life.
Trying to figure out, like, could you be around everybody? And, like, because last year you were struggling with that. Like you were struggling because of what just happened with the boys?
No, I'd rather just be around people who really want to be around me.
So what I see here is Robyn reminding Kody of, hey, remember last year you didn't really want to get together either? If you were just watching this scene and didn't have a lot of back history, you would deduce that Robyn is really just trying to help Kody identify his feelings. But because we have all this other history, what Robyn is doing is highlighting areas that work for her. Remember, you have a really hard time with this. Let me remind you of the areas that work for me in making sure that none of us get together. And it's a way of manipulating Kody and kind of carving his reality by appearing as if she's just a loving, caring spouse the whole time. Very Machiavellian.
So are you going to invite everybody?
Probably not.
I don't think Meri has a lot of choice here. I think she understands if she asks Janelle and her children to come over, I think she knows that Robyn and Kody will see that as her being disloyal. And it's interesting because she goes in and starts to talk about how she might be perceived as being on their side because she's spending time with them. But what she says is the reality is that I'm spending time with them because they've indicated to me that they want me around, whereas nobody else has. She is in a tough situation. It would be nice if she was able to ask everybody, but I also understand why she didn't. And I think she really is, out of everybody in the family, she's the one who is most separate and most on her own, which I'm sure makes her more cautious about destroying what very few fragments of relationships she has with the larger family.
I just want to run away from everybody who's been so uncool about what I've tried to do to protect the family.
I would argue that he has already run away from the rest of the family. He's essentially just been staying at Robyn's house. He's not communicating with his children. He's not calling them. He's not contacting them. He hasn't been around the wives, yet claims he has been this whole time. So I think he already has run away. He just is still living in the same house. So Kody, you've already done this. Avoiding a problem doesn't make it better. It just creates more issues.
Nobody feels safe. Nobody feels like they can be with another person without being just triggered constantly.
This language that he's using doesn't sound like Kody's way of communicating. What it sounds like to me is Robyn. And remember, Robyn said this exact statement to Meri when they were on the back porch. I believe it was the last episode. And she's like, wouldn't it be great just to be in a room full of people and just, feel safe with everybody? Like, what? So again, I think this is Robyn's interpretation of what's happening, and Kody very much will adopt whatever her belief system is around whatever is happening and adopt it as his own.
There's this feeling that we've all been done wrong. The flames are on the bridge, and I think most of us is just kind of walking away from the bridge, wondering if the bridge is strong enough to hold up or if it's going to burn down.
I want to point out his very passive way of talking about the demise of the family. So it's just this bridge that's off in the distance, and the bridge is either going to burn down or who knows, maybe it'll stand this fire. But he acts as if he isn't culpable for the fact that he lit the bridge on fire. He just kind of sits back and watches and then just wonders. I think it's a horrible way of going about your life. You don't want to be a passive person in your life. If you have relationships that matter to you, you have to put forth momentum and care and love to make sure that those relationships stay strong. It makes me really sad for the kids, but honestly, it might make it easier for them to just move on and sever ties. Clearly, Kody isn't doing anything on his end to maintain healthy relationships with his children, with his wives, with his ex-wives. He's very much this person who will blow up his life and then look at his life and be like, well, I guess my relationships weren't strong enough to stand me throwing bombs at them. Who knew? That's it for this week, you guys. This was another long one. So I hear everybody who likes the longer content. I also prefer longer content. So I will do longer pieces when the episode is so packed like this one was. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. Until next time.